The key rattled in the lock before I even realized how tired I was. The weight of the day pressed down on me, emails unanswered, meetings that drained rather than inspired, the slow hum of fluorescent lights still clinging to my shoulders. I had imagined walking into quiet, into the sanctuary of my own home, but the moment the door swung open, that illusion evaporated. 6 bodies, relaxed and laughing, occupied the living room. My husband's relatives, all of them, sprawling across the couch and chairs, as if the house belonged entirely to them. I smiled automatically, a polite curve of the lips, because manners felt like armor. My hand lingered on the doorknob for a second longer than necessary, a subtle hesitation before the retreat. I turned toward the bedroom and closed the door behind me with deliberate calm, a soft click that felt like a line drawn in sand. Silence enveloped me. For the first time that day, the world receded, and I could feel the tension in my shoulders, the way exhaustion had frayed my nerves. I leaned against the door, letting my bag slide to the floor. I had eaten on the way home, I reminded myself, and there would be no serving dinner tonight. I didn't have to. Not if I chose not to. Memories surfaced in quiet, like water leaking through a cracked pipe. All the times I had swallowed irritation at family visits, the subtle pressure to accommodate, to bend. How often I had ignored my own fatigue to smooth over social friction, to be the gracious hostess. And yet, here I was, boundaries clear and unspoken, asserting them without a word. The act felt small, almost imperceptible, but profoundly satisfying. I perched on the edge of the bed, sipping water. Outside, laughter and conversation continued, casual and oblivious. My eyes drifted to the familiar outlines of the furniture. The books stacked just so, the little comforts I had carved from routine. Each detail reminded me of what belonged to me, quietly reclaiming space in a room I had momentarily abandoned. Observation became my refuge. I listened, who dominated conversation, who ignored my absence, who sought approval from others. I noticed the subtle dynamics. The aunt whose voice often overpowered, the cousin who seemed uneasy, the quiet brother-in-law who offered no challenge, but watched attentively. Insight settled into me slowly. I didn't need to raise my voice to assert presence. I only needed patience, strategy, and subtlety. Eventually, the soft sound of footsteps signaled my husband's arrival. He paused at the threshold, a quick glance at the living room, and then at me behind the door. Without fanfare, without drama, he addressed one of the relatives, a polite reminder to help themselves without assuming dominance, a suggestion that preserved harmony but shifted recognition toward my space. That small acknowledgement, a quiet nod to my boundaries, was enough. It rippled through the room subtly, like a stone dropped in still water. The relatives didn't notice the recalibration, but the shift was unmistakable to me. I remained in the bedroom for a while longer, letting my solitude consolidate into something like calm authority. My presence was acknowledged without being performative. My choices, silent yet deliberate, had restored the dignity that fatigue and expectation had eroded. When I finally stepped back into the living room, the relatives continued to talk, laugh, and pour drinks. Nothing had changed externally, nothing dramatic. But inside, the tension had lifted. I had not confronted, argued, or demanded. I had simply allowed the space to assert itself, and my husband had quietly reinforced it. The power dynamic, though subtle, had shifted in a way that felt earned and permanent. I poured a glass of water and sat at the edge of the sofa. Silence and sound mingled in the room, each coexisting without needing to dominate the other. I felt a quiet satisfaction, not triumph, but the steady assurance that my limits were respected. Resentment remained, faint and unspoken, but it no longer dictated my mood or my choices. The evening wore on. I listened, I watched, I allowed the relatives' comfort to exist alongside my own reclaimed peace. There was no spectacle, No overt acknowledgement, no applause for endurance. There didn't need to be. Victory had arrived in small, deliberate increments in the quiet assertion of self, in the unobtrusive reinforcement by someone I trusted, in the subtle but undeniable reclaiming of dignity. I leaned back, letting the weight of the day settle differently this time, not oppressive but structured. Calm, patient, restrained. I had returned to the home I shared, not as a passive observer of others' presence, but as someone whose boundaries were quietly respected. That was enough. The door to the bedroom still clicked softly in memory. A quiet victory, understated but undeniable.